So I didn't put them in here, but I had a couple pictures of us sitting in hammocks, and it was a joke because we got in the hammock, took the picture, and got out, and then we did all this ecological work. That boat's seen better days. This was a girls' cabin. They were on one side, and like I said, we only had 3 of us, and the guys were a little further away, but this was our spot here. And I had my digital camera, but I also brought an underwater disposable camera, and people were kind of laughing at me because it was old film, and I was actually using film. Not all the shots are great, and the fish were a little faster than me sometimes. Here's a spotted leopard ray. This conch shell was the size of my head. It was huge with a conch shell kind of squirting along the bottom. Big seesaw. Pelican up above. That night we had a really awesome thunderstorm roll in. It was fun to see the lightning from a distance. We had some local experts come and talk to us. Donnie talked to us about the reef ecology. We headed out to Southwater Marine Reserve. This guy worked for, I think, 16 years. Each summer he would come out and he said, probably the best job of my life. I work very hard during the day. I fix motors. I do all sorts of different kinds of things and coral reef ecology. And then I sit in my hammock and drink beers at night. Okay. But it was a good guy to listen to. Some more underwater pictures and the snorkeling. A lot of people don't realize that along Belize, the Barrier Reef is the 2nd largest reef in the world, second to the Australian Great Barrier Reef. There's a parrotfish I was trying to get at different stages of their life. They look different, but this one was awfully vibrant with the yellow on the tail there, you can see. I like to dive down in there. Now, some of the pictures I think they got in here. A green sea turtle was missing its right flipper there. They thought probably cut off by a boat. There are 2 barracuda that were checking us out. Kind of hard to see there. We got some barracuda, a little dangerous, but they weren't too interested in us. Huge black groupers. And some big nurse sharks, too. Now, these guys were sharks, but they say, the nurse sharks are dangerous. Don't worry about it. Frigate birds. These are big, huge birds flying around there. And the mangroves. And the locals didn't get in and snorkel with us when we were going through the mangroves here. And later on, we found out it was because they were worried there were probably a lot of crocodiles in there. And yet we got in. But there were corals and polyps growing on the mangrove roots. And it was really kind of neat to see that as well. The sea fan, if you wave the water there, it would suck in all the tentacles there, as it was a filter feeder. We did inquiries out in the water too, coral reef inquiries. We asked a lot of questions, more presentations there. And someone said later on, he said, Seth, you realize you just gave a grad class presentation without your shirt on. Back to Dangriga, we weren't so happy to leave. This is one of the guys, Kurt, that was with me. He works in Cincinnati in the zoo. And then Celso Put was one of the local experts. He actually just got back there. He was in Yellowstone. He did some small to medium-sized mammal studies in Yellowstone, and he got a Harvard fellowship for that. But we left tobacco. Back to the mainland. And when we got there, I mentioned that miner or bus driver kind of saved our life. We got off the boat, and we were supposed to go to a place called Gales Point Manatee Lodge and work with manatees there and work with tagging loggerhead and green sea turtles at night when they came and would deposit their eggs. But miner said, well, guys, I think we have a change of plans. There is a drug war going on in Gales Point right now, and it doesn't seem to be safe. The people from Gales Point got a hold of one of our professors and said, no, we'll call off the drug war because your business is important to us. Please come. Well, we ensure it's safe. We'll bring in extra police. No, thank you. We'll try something different. So the change of plans actually worked out really well. We met, I put these 2 up here. Conservation is kind of a tricky thing. There's so many different viewpoints, so many different players, so many people that play roles in the process. And this is one of the bus stops that said, clear the land. And we looked at that, but why are they putting that out there? And then down the road, there's this sign. We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. Not an easy situation. There were cemeteries all over the place, too. This is going to Belize City now. We actually ended up, instead of going to Gales Point, met a man named Chocolate, or Mr. Chocolate. And he has his offices on Key Cocker. If you ever get a chance to Key Cocker, you can see Mr. Chocolate down there. But we jumped on a boat. There he is. He's 85 years old, and fairly single-handedly, he convinced the Belizean government to set aside 9,000 acres for manatee preservation and manatee reserves, basically. He was really concerned. He says, now when I go, I don't know if it'll stay around because you'll see some pictures of the cruise ships coming in that same area, and money might speak louder than the saving of the manatees here. But we turned the engines off, and you can see a mother and a baby manatee here coming to the surface. And he talked about how they would bend down and pull up the seagrass and eat it. And he was just an amazing man to listen to. So passionate. It was very funny to listen to. They let me try caning in there. We had to turn the engines off. And then Chocolate said, even as an 85-year-old man, I'm better at you. Better than this. Like I talking too much. This was the Swallow Key Patrol, and they would come, if people were with their engines, they would come alongside and say, you need to shut your engines off. But it got hit by one of the hurricanes there. You can see it's in a little disrepair, but he's happy. And he's, they wouldn't let you get in the water, but if you had an underwater camera, they said you could try to stick it under the water along the boat, try to get pictures there. These are some really neat shots. There's some cruise ships not too far away. There's America as well. Very close to the end here. And then we'll get to the local experts. The Guanacaste tree is the national tree of Belize. Very large, very wide around. That's a tree. And this was the national park. There's some rubber from a rubber tree. More leafcutter ants. And more howler monkeys too. I mean, you missed the song, right? Mahatma Gandhi once said, the greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated. I wasn't going to stop there and not show you this part, but I'll give you a few slides. The last night there, they treated us to a nice meal at a local establishment, Amigos, karaoke bar, and it was pretty fun. This must be the place. But also put the whole time he was so serious, and he was very educationally minded and talking to us about, well, this study, and when you get here, you make sure you learn about this. He was the first to sing. He had a Frank Sinatra song he was singing there. The group of guys, we won. It was kind of a competition, and it would give you a score. We sang, what's the name of the Lion Sleeps Tonight? So we're pretty proud of that. And I tell you what, I wanted to show this because even in this place, then randomly, I met this gentleman. His name was Darren, I think, or Darren Simpson, and you can go online to wildcapture.org or wildcaptureinternational.org. This guy had amazing stories. I first noticed the huge knife that he had in the back here, but he had these big teeth necklaces and all this different stuff, and I got a chance to start talking with him. He was there working with the International Pantera organization, which is big cat conservation, and he was setting traps and capturing wild jaguars and wild mountain lions and things like that. So it was a pretty awesome experience. Very safe way. If you look online, it talks about not harming the animals or trying not to harm them, but for ecological studies to look for populations and look for what's happening along that terminology. And then releasing them, absolutely. He actually has his own copyright on one of the types of traps that catches safely the jaguars. So really interesting guy. And then we had to leave. So let's move this now to a more local situation here. Bring it back to Minnesota. What conservation issues, what kinds of environmental issues do we have going on here? I mentioned previously that I am a high school science teacher, and at the beginning of this school year, our options group actually has the brainchild of one Mr. Paul Jagger, who's standing in the back there, one of my teachers, had students working out in the Straight River here, and I wrote a paper and did a study on the efficacy or the feelings of effectiveness by students as part of my grad program. Some of my students work with me on an inquiry on habitat corridors, looking at deer around this area, networking with DNR officials, Janine Borland locally here, and talking with University of Minnesota professors. I have some hopeful mentors for options in the future with maybe some Skype sessions that we'll be able to send out there. Overall, I have a better understanding of inquiry, participatory education, and comparison questions that I can then extend that to students with their critical thinking processes and 21st century learning skills. I've got a course right now that I've just finished up, Biology in the Age of Technology, where we incorporate a lot of different Web 2.0 tools. I've got Skype sessions set up with Jamal and Celso, two of the gentlemen that you saw there that the students will be talking to in the next month. The final project for the biology workshop that the students are in right now is going to be an inquiry, comparison, question kind of presentation that we'll get. And in the future, I've got 2 more years. I'm excited to see the possibilities. That basically ends my portion here, and we have some other people that have come locally to talk about some environmental issues, some different kinds of conservation things, and we're going to start off with Jamie. If you've got an opportunity, is there anything that I can do to set things up? Jamie from the Rad Zoo was very gracious to come. Hi there. Now we bring some animals here.
As I said, my name is Jamie Pask. I'm the director of the Rad Zoo here in town, and I actually brought a little bit of some of our animals that you would find in Belize for you, not only to talk about the fact that, just to kind of tie in with that, but also talk a little bit about injurious wildlife. This is Sir Croaks-a-Lot, a giant cane toad, and this is a male right here.